Good morning to you all.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. We'll just wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Students are joining and we'll start. So, good morning to you all once again. And before we start, can anybody tell me what did we discuss in the Saturday session? Yogesh, Onkar,
Sir, I was absent in last lecture.
okay. Suraj, Monica, Harish, Tejas, are you all there?
Yes, sir.
Huh. So do you remember what did we discuss in the Saturday session? Harish, are you there? Huh. Akanksha, Chaitali, Yogesh. Yogesh, you are if you are there, you please tell me what did we discuss in the Saturday session. Okay. So in the Saturday session, we talked about different techniques. In last session, is the PPT is visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
In the last session, we talked about the methods and techniques of organizational appraisal. There are different techniques for internal analysis, comprehensive analysis, and comprehensive analysis. All these categories are helpful for organizational appraisal. In internal analysis, there were different um, techniques or methodologies like VRIO framework. What is a VRIO? Anybody? Omkar, Harish, and Yogesh. What is VRIO? What is the full form of VRIO? Do you remember? Hmm? Chaitali, Rohit, Suraj. Do you remember the full form of this VRIO?
Value rare imitable organization.
Okay. Then we discussed about value chain analysis with a very good example of Starbucks. Then what is a quantitative analysis? We saw in terms of financial as well as there may be few non-financial parameters. So this VRIO framework, as Monica has rightly said, it is valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized. So these are four qualities on the basis of which we make a analysis of a company or an organization, and we understand whether these uh, pose any type of strength or weakness or any competence to the organization. Secondly, we saw about value chain analysis, which was being demonstrated by Michael Porter in 1995. That model value chain analysis that we have discussed, and there we saw that there are different primary and supportive activities that need to be analyzed and understood so that we can understand, we can improvise the value of final product by looking at where we can enhance the value at which type of activity and which steps we can enhance that type of value so that we can enhance or improve the value of the final product, which can ultimately lead to the increased profit margins. So that value chain also we discussed, and quantitative analysis related to the financial aspects, which may have technique like EVA, that is economic value added. So that formula also we have discussed, and there can be another technique which is called as ABC technique, that is activity based technique, and few non-financial criterias for quantitative analysis, that may be employee turnover, maybe market ranking, service call rates, number of products patented, that may be other parameters which can make a judgment or which can understand the position of the company in terms of non-financial criterias. So we have to then look at the qualitative analysis. After we discussed quantitative analysis, we have to now discuss about qualitative analysis. This qualitative analysis is about subjective analysis. The few qualities of a company will be analyzed through this qualitative analysis so as to understand what is the position of the company in terms of those parameters. In this qualitative analysis, this you will see that these provide the information regarding organizational strengths and weaknesses. So here also in qualitative analysis, we can understand the different strengths as well as weaknesses of a company, and then to understand these weaknesses and strengths of a company, we have to look at different qualities. These qualities may be, first of all, the tenor of the corporate culture. Have you heard of this word tenor? Yogesh? Okay. So this tenor of corporate culture, that means what is the type of corporate culture? Is it induce you to work, or is it motivating? Does it help employees to raise their moral? Is that culture is cooperative? Are the people have uh, cooperation among themselves? Do they cooperate each other? What type of interpersonal relations they have? So that is all about tenor of corporate culture. How is the corporate culture? That is the first quality we can understand through this qualitative analysis. Secondly, the ability to absorb and assimilate knowledge. So whatever knowledge may be of related to the different products, processes, procedures, or any other external environment forces, what type of knowledge we have and how that knowledge can be absorbed, assimilated, and then disseminated among the employees. Do we have that type of ability? That is another quality. Third quality, the level of moral among the employees. How motivated are the people? What type of moral they have? So all these, along with many other different qualities, we can have such type of qualitative analysis wherein we can understand the company's internal environment, and then understand the strengths and weaknesses of the organization. So therefore this qualitative analysis, what we are talking about, will be called as a soft analysis, and the quantitative analysis will be called as a hard analysis. Are you all getting this?
Yes, sir.
So qualitative analysis is soft analysis and quantitative analysis. We call it as a hard analysis. So that is about quantitative as well as qualitative analysis. Then we have to move towards another category for organizational appraisal, that is a comparative analysis. Till now what we have covered is internal analysis through VRI framework, value chain analysis, quantitative qualitative analysis, all that we have learned. Now we have to go ahead and understand what is a comparative analysis. From this term also you can understand this comparative analysis. That means it is related to the comparison. So comparison of what? So comparison can be done at different levels, and therefore we can have different types of this comparative analysis. First is our historical analysis. So historical analysis, that itself means that the comparison of a company's current performance with its past performance. So that is historical analysis that we have to understand. Therefore, this historical analysis through this company can develop its strength or tackle weaknesses on the basis of its past performance. So what type of past performance they had, how they have overcome different weaknesses or different obstacles. From that they can have a learning, and then from that learning they can have understanding of how future problems can be then avoided. So this historical analysis, wherein we compare our present performance, present difficulties, present obstacles, and then we try to learn from the history that what what type of measures were taken for such kinds of different problems, obstacles, and then how we can improvise this current performance by having some learning through this historical analysis. So this practice is standard. This practice of doing this historical analysis is standard in presentation of balance sheet and profit and loss account in annual report of the company. So through this balance sheet as well as profit and loss account, we try to learn many different things. Areas which are doing consistently well are strong areas and strengths of the company, and vice versa. So through this balance sheet, profit and loss accounts, we may identify different areas wherein the company was doing well in the past. So we can call them as strengths of the company, and then few areas wherein the company was not working well. So those areas we may call it as a weaknesses of the company. And then by learning, having the understanding of this past performance, we can have learning related to what were different situations, how those problems were tackled, and then how those weaknesses can be converted into the strengths, or how these weaknesses can be overcome. That all can be done through this historical analysis. Then another term or another type in this comparative analysis can be called as industry norms. So different industry norms have to be understood first of all for this, and then we compare our organization with those industry norms. So in whatever industry the company is working, they have to first of all look at the different industry norms. What are the industry norms and how the what are the standard practices in that industry. So by doing this, it will give a significant information, the basis to assess where an organization start or stands with reference to competitors or industry. So whatever industry norms are there may be related to the price or any strategical implementation or any kind of norms that the particular industry may have. So we have to compare the organizational performance with that type of organizational norms, and thereby we can understand where our company or organization stands with reference to all those competitors in that particular industry. In this, there will be comparison between companies which operates with similar strategies, and hence direct comparison can be made. So a strategic group can be formed. Those companies which have similar strategies, we can call it as a strategic group, and then we compare the strategies and the implementation part of our company, and then with the reference to the other companies in that particular industry, and then we can understand what is the gap or where we are lacking. So this industry norms will provide good idea to firms to know the different areas where they excel. That can be we call it as a strength, and another we can understand is the areas where the company will need the improvement, that we call it as a weakness. So these industry norms can also help us to understand different strengths and weaknesses, and then how do we overcome those weaknesses, and at the same time can we convert that weakness into a strength that we can understand. Third type in this comparative analysis is called as benchmarking. So benchmarking is another similar kind of practice wherein we have to have some reference point. So we may have a company who is very well performing in a particular industry. We may call it as a stand. We may call it as a reference. So with reference to that particular company, we can compare the performance of our company, which can be called as a benchmarking. So benchmarking is a reference point for the purpose of measuring and comparison. So here, for measuring our performance with someone who is performing very well in a particular industry, we will compare the performance of our company with that company. So it provides a point of reference for our company. So this process of benchmarking will be aimed at finding the best practice within the within and outside the industry to which the organization belongs. So what we do is we have to first of all understand what industry we are operating in, and in that industry who is the company, which company is performing very well, so that we can take it as a reference. So this APQC, that is American Productivity and Quality Center, that says that the practice of being humble enough to admit that someone else is better at something, and being wise enough to learn how to match and even surpass them at it. So that is all what APQC says about benchmarking. So for that, when we are doing benchmarking, first of all we have to admit that someone in a particular industry is doing very well. Instead of only saying that we are doing very well, we have to admit that we must be lacking at somewhere, and we can also improvise. We can there may be few areas of improvement wherein we can improve and grow further. So we have to first of all admit that there may be people who are performing very well in a particular industry, and then we have to find out that performer, and then compare our performance with that performers, so that we can understand where we can improvise, what areas we need the improvement, so that we can match those areas. We can improvise on those particular points, and then even we can surpass, or we can go ahead of that particular performer company in that particular industry. And this benchmarking, when we are talking about, that benchmarking can be done at different stages, or different types. That is benchmarking in terms of performance, benchmarking in terms of process, and strategic benchmarking, that may be related to comparing the strategies or implementation of strategies with comparing the performance of our companies in terms of strategies with other companies in that particular industry. So that is about the benchmarking practice, wherein we can compare our performance with someone who is performer, or some company who is performing in that particular industry. So that is about benchmarking. Are you getting clarity?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So where somewhere wherever you feel you are not understanding, you can definitely stop me and then ask whatever queries you have. Okay. So going ahead, we have comprehensive analysis. So till now, what we discussed, this internal analysis and comparative analysis, we have completed. Now we have to go to the third category, that is a comprehensive analysis. Comprehensive, it means that it is detailed analysis of the company's internal environment, and there may be different techniques with which we can do this. So in comprehensive analysis, so it is a combination of techniques can be used to get overview of its strengths and weaknesses, as every technique have different purpose and limitations. Whatever techniques we have understood till now, every technique will have different purposes, different advantages, and some limitations. However, with a comprehensive analysis, we can overcome this type of limitation. And in this comprehensive analysis, we have different techniques. First of those techniques may be the balanced scorecard. So balanced scorecard is one of the technique then we can understand under comprehensive analysis, which can help us to understand the performance of a company. This is a balanced scorecard, which is a technique to measure performance of an organization. It can be said that it is a set of measures that gives the top managers and stakeholders a fast and comprehensive view of business. So in very less time, quickly we can understand through this balanced scorecard that where we stand in terms of market, what is our performance, what measures need to be taken. So all that can be understood very well through this type of balanced scorecard. This balanced scorecard that will include the financial measures that inform the result of actions already taken. So through balance scorecard, we understand one of the aspect that is related to the financial measures that company has undertaken. What is the result of those particular actions? It complements financial manager with operational measures like customer satisfaction, internal processes, organization's innovation and improvement that are drivers of future financial performance. So through this balanced scorecard, this can also provides a financial manager with operational measures that need to be taken. So all these operational measures that can be taken so as to improvise the future performance, that can be provided as an input through this balanced scorecard. Different measures that can be customer satisfaction, improvement of internal processes, or different innovation, that need to be looked into through this balanced scorecard, so that it will give some input to the financial managers and other uh, functional areas in an organization so as to improvise the overall performance of an organization. So in this balanced scorecard, going further, every organization is responsible to the stakeholders, that we have to understand. Every organization, they have to be responsible to all those direct indirect stakeholders, board of directors, the investors, society, and the customers. And to be responsible to these groups, we need to answer various questions. One question may be how did we perform this past month, quarter, and the year? What was our past performance? And then how we are going to do in the next month, quarter, and year? Then how, what measures we are taking to improvise the performance in the next month, next quarter, or the next year? Then to be in the better position, the company should not only look into the past and today's performance, also focus on future actions and achievements. So by having a look into the past performance, today's performance, we have to look ahead and understand how we can improvise the performance in the future period. Only financial analysis will not give necessary information to take strategic decisions to improve performance. So also we have to understand at this stage that there may be different parameters which need to be improvised or need to be enhanced so that it can contribute to the overall performance of our organization. There may be financial criteria as well as there may be many such non-financial criteria wherein the company has to understand the performance and what measures can be taken in those aspects so that the future performance can be enhanced, that need to be understood. So in this particular kind of technique balanced scorecard which we are talking of, we have the four important parameters. Just give me a second. So this balanced scorecard which we are talking about, they have four performance measures along with financial perspectives. You can see there may be other perspective which are non-financial in nature that also have to be taken into consideration. First is financial perspective, that is how do we look at shareholders, what is our financial performance. Then customers perspective, how do customers see, what they expect from us, are we fulfilling their expectations, where do we stand in fulfilling their expectations. Then internal analysis or internal business perspective, what we must excel at, what are our strengths, where can we excel at, why with the kind of strengths which we have. Then the learning and growth perspective, can we continue to improve and create value. So can we have a continuous learning through the past and current performance so as to improve on continuous basis and create value for all the stakeholders. So all these are different perspectives or key performance measures, we can say, that have to be taken into consideration into a balanced scorecard. And each of these perspective which we are talking of, that is financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business perspective, and learning and growth perspective, all those will be evaluated on the basis of these parameters, that is objectives, what is to be achieved using this strategy. Then measures, what are we going to measure progress towards achievement of objectives. Then targets, that refers to the target value that company is going to obtain for each measure. And then initiatives, what activities need to be taken to facilitate reaching towards the target. So through this balance card, these four performance areas we have seen: financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business perspective, and learning and growth perspective. Each of the perspective will be evaluated on these parameters. All these four, four important areas will be looked into when we are talking of each of the perspective. So maybe suppose we take financial perspective. So for this we have to understand what are the different objectives of this financial perspective, what is to be achieved using the different strategies which we have formulated, what are the different measures, how do we measure the progress towards achievement of objective, whatever strategies we have formulated. And then to achieve all those strategies, then what are the different measures, what is the measurement, how can we measure that progress towards the attainment of the objectives, and the target, what is the target and how do we obtain that or achieve that particular target through each of the measure. And then the initiatives, what initiatives or what actions are being planned to facilitate the organization to achieve that target. So for all these perspectives, customer perspective, internal business perspective, and learning and growth perspective, we'll have to evaluate all this perspective on these different parameters, four important parameters. Then this balanced scorecard will be complete. So you can see, look at this diagrammatic representation of this particular balanced scorecard. Is this diagram visible?
Yes, sir.
Huh. So here we can see a comprehensive picture of this balanced scorecard, wherein these four aspects we have shown. At the center, you see that the vision and strategy, the overall vision of a company, and the different strategies which are being formulated. And then these four dimensions we have put into this diagram, like financial aspect, then internal business processes, learning and growth, and the customer. And on each perspective, you can see we are evaluating that on the basis of these four important criterias, that is the objectives, measures, targets, and initiatives. So on each perspective, we will see these four important dimensions: objectives, measures, targets, and initiatives. So in all areas, we have to understand how are we performing and what actions need to be taken so as to enhance the overall performance of the company. So that comprehensive picture can be shown through this balanced scorecard. So in financial terms, you can see we have come out with this: to succeed financially, how should we appear to our shareholders? What need to be done so as to enhance the value for the shareholders? Then internal business processes, what type of internal processes we have to satisfy our shareholders and customers. What business process must we excel at? What type of business processes we have, wherein what type of process we need improvement, what improvement is specifically expected so that we can excel in that particular processes so as to satisfy our shareholders and customers. Then learning and growth perspective, wherein we have to understand to achieve our vision how will uh, we sustain our ability to change and improve. So in terms of learning and growth, are we really learning from our past and current performance? What knowledge have we gathered? Is that sufficient, or is it valuable for us to sustain and further grow in the market? And then customer perspective, to achieve our vision, how should we appear to our customers? What need to be done so as to fulfill the expectations of the customers? What are all the different actions that they need to be taken? Are we really standing uh, standing well in customers' expectations? What are the expectations of the customers? Are we fulfilling it? And what can be done further so as to enhance the customer satisfaction? That can be understood. So all these four perspectives: financial, internal processes, then learning and growth, and customers, all these are the four different perspectives which can be studied very well in depth through this comprehensive analysis, which is called as a balanced scorecard, and through which we can understand what initiatives, what actions can be taken so as to perform well in all these perspectives on all these areas, so as to achieve the overall vision of a particular organization. Are you understanding this concept of balanced scorecard?
Yes.
Okay. So, for your further understanding of this balanced scorecard, we'll have an example of one of the airline company, a Ford airline company. So here in this company airlines, you can see those have they have taken different perspectives here on the vertical axis. If you can see this diagram, so here on the vertical axis you can see the different perspectives they have taken, like financial perspectives, customer perspective, internal perspective, learning and growth. So all these perspectives they have looked into, they have analyzed their their past and current performance, different uh, objectives, and then how they can take different initiatives and what actions need to be taken in different areas which are important, that is financial, customer, internal and learning and growth, so that they can excel in their performance and they can meet the expectations of customers as well as achieve the overall vision. So we'll look at different perspectives one by one. Here the first perspective, that is financial perspective, wherein they have the initiative that they have taken, or what they look at is increasing shareholders value. So here they, after the analysis of their current past performance, what they are aiming at through the different initiatives they plan, through the different strategies, their objective or their aim is to increase the shareholders value when we are talking about the financial performance or the financial perspective. Second is your customer's perspective. So in customer's perspective, by looking at different expectations and the fulfillment of those customers' perspectives, they have decided to take on the initiatives in this type of perspective, that frequent and reliable departures. They found that this is one of the things wherein the customers expect, and therefore this needs to be fulfilled, and we have to stand very well in those type of expectations. So first the first initiative or the first standard which they aim at is frequent and reliable departure, then comparable to the other travel. So it need to be comparable to the other travel. It should be reasonably cost or and having quality than other travel modes. Very low ticket prices. So that may be the another expectation of the customers, that they want good quality travel or service with a reasonable price. So these three important parameters they have taken into consideration for further enhancement of their performance. That is frequent departures, comparable to other travel, very low ticket prices. So that is about customers' perspective. Third perspective is about the internal processes. So the internal processes that may be related to innovation, internal process may be related to the relationships, and the internal process related to the cost. So they may have a comparison of their internal processes and the different strengths and weaknesses of those processes, and they take initiatives or actions so as to enhance their performance on these aspects through having some initiatives or actions to be planned for their further enhancement of the performance. So in terms of innovation, the fast ground turnaround, good locations, direct routes. So that is what they feel about innovation. How do we do this? How we can do this innovatively so that it can create a superior value to our customers than the other competitors. Then the relationships. How do we have or we build relationships with the customers through having fun experiences, recreational activities, no elites, so that relationships and understanding how do we enhance the value through this building of relationships then can be understood. Then cost effectiveness, how do we enhance the value by having cost effectiveness through this travel, no frills, standard fleet, and then high utilization. All these that can be understood or that can be planned for cost effectiveness of the particular airlines. And then through learning and growth, how that learning and growth can be ensured, that is by paying well, high compensation, then flexible union contracts, and then high employee ownership, giving the sense to the employees that they are the partial owners, giving them the feel of being a owner of the particular service or particular organization. So making them work as a entrepreneur. So that may be the different aspects which can be initiated or planned through this learning and growth perspective. So all these aspects again we will be talking about in detail. Going ahead with this example, what learnings we have to ensure through this example of balanced scorecard. First important thing is this type of strategy maps are read from the top to the bottom. So from top to the bottom, so we have to read this type of balance scorecard from top to the bottom. We have to go understanding or measuring from top to the bottom. Then the objectives are listed in order of importance. Whatever objectives we are listing for each of the particular perspective, we have to list all those objectives in order of their importance, how important they are for raising the performance, that we have to list in order of their importance. Then in the diagram you can see that below the financial perspective there is a customer perspective. So after the financial perspective you can see the customer's perspective. That is important. Why? Because the financial perspectives we can achieve only through having this customer perspective. So this is because Upward Airlines believes that the way they are going to meet their number of goal of increasing shareholder value is by making their customers happy. So the goal of improving the shareholders value that can be achieved only through making the customers satisfied with the service, and therefore that is taken after the financial perspective. And then the question we have to ask, what all can make the customers happy? What are the customers expectations? What does they actually want? Are we fulfilling their expectations? Where, what areas we are weak, and how we can enhance our performance so that we can fulfill their expectations, that we have to ask. So uh, as we go ahead, that analysis will go into the depth, and then we understand what are all the different areas wherein we can improvise our actions or take initiatives so that we can grow further. Going ahead, to make these customers happy, they need to focus on innovation by offering fast ground turnaround, good locations that better serve their customers, and direct routes to large cities. So fast ground turnaround, fast movement of the different flights, the more turnover of the flights, that may be the fast ground turnaround, the good locations, the good locations which there is a high demand for having the travel locations need to be chosen. Then the direct routes which the customer expects to foster these good relationships by creating fun experiences where everyone is treated well. So that treatment to the customers, how what type of treatment we are offering to the customers, what we are doing during the travel, can we add some uh, value to the services we are offering during the travel that can provide a very good experience to the customers related to the travel. Then the cost effectiveness by focusing on no frills, standard fleet, and high utilization of flights. So that can be also ensured by having very well in advance planning and by improvising the different functional areas which will be working towards having the standardization of the fleets and utilization of different sources resources so that there will be higher utilization of the flights. So all that we have to understand through this balanced scorecard. How do we analyze the performance of a company through this balanced scorecard, and how do we plan about further growth or further improvisation of the further improvisation that we can understand. So before we continue with those details, we'll stop here for today's session. Do we have any query related to what we have discussed in today's session? We'll see the queries, and then if there are no queries, we'll stop and then continue in the next session. Is there any query or anything which you can add into this, whatever we have discussed?
No, sir.
Anything? Okay, fine.
No,
So
sir.
what we will do, we'll stop here in this class, and we'll meet in the next class. Fine?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Bye.